All right, good morning. Let's see here. I am on this screen today, though I'm wondering why my green screen had a little bit of an error there. So, where do we start? So I was busy yesterday, so I didn't really have any time to work on Reaper Boy, but before I wasn't able to work the day before after my stream, I did work on a bunch of other things to make this game a lot better. So I'm just going through and I was working on some other projects before, so I'm just trying to close this stuff out if I can. All right, I will test out. I will have to test this stuff out later. I'm working on like a whole bunch of different projects all over the place, and I have a ton of stuff that I want to start sharing, but I haven't been able to really, I don't know, get myself organized enough to do all that. I'm just closing out some windows on my other computer. So the goal for today, the focus really comes down to I need to get this game done. So my plan, I'm hoping that today is I'm going to do all the polishing that needs to happen just to get this thing working. And then once I finish with the polish and stuff, my plan is that tomorrow I will focus on finishing up the level editor. Sunday I will put the finishing touches on it, and I'm hoping that by Monday I can call this project complete and move on to something else. So here is where I left off yesterday. So I added in the clouds, which now randomly appear. I have the enemies. If I crush an enemy, the star highlights, and then I have an exit. And there's nothing else that really happens outside of that. So there's a few things that we need to do today. I want to actually go back to, let me go back to GitHub and, whoops, thank you. I want to look for the, is it this project that I have all my issues? I have two Reaper Boy projects, and I should have deleted one. At least I think I didn't delete one. Where's my repository? Whoops. I have this, and I have the other one. I think this is the one that I'm doing. Yeah, let's get rid of this one here. I'm pretty sure there's no code in this one, right? Yeah, okay. Let's delete this project real quick so that I don't keep confusing myself. All right. I have to use the mobile app. Hold on a second here. GitHub. 81. All right. So now that should delete itself, and then we don't have to worry about that. And here, I want to look through and see what I've done here as far as the task, because I've been doing a really terrible job of organizing myself. We still need to do the play animation. Enemies not turning around. So we've completed this task. Check for tile underneath the selector. Add support for drawing and erasing tiles. Add rules for platform layout. Add basic platform support. Pass back preview. Set up variables for each of the tile. Add save level option. All right, so we have completed this one thing. There's a lot more that I've completed. Let's just mark this thing as completed. And then here's what I want to take care of today. So the first thing that I need to do is, wait, I think I already had an issue for it. Let me duplicate this and go back. Issues. The enemy walker needs to play the death animation. Okay, so we know that we need to add in star when enemy dies. Create new star instance for create a new star instance for enemy death. This isn't really the important one. I think the one that I'm actually going to focus on, although we'll see, whoops, this is an enhancement. The thing that I really want to focus on now is that I want to reset the level, reset level logic. If I could type today. All right, and let's just take a minute to define this. So when the game starts up, it should run the reset level logic. And when the game starts up, or when you exit the editor. All right, and basically here's the logic that needs to happen. So the first thing that it needs to do is it needs to find the exit. We have a script for this already. Then it needs to find enemy positions. Whoops. Positions. Place enemies at correct position. And then, and the other thing we need to do is replace map tiles when actors are added to scene. Basically, remove the player marker and the enemy markers. We might actually need to modify this a bit. And what I'm thinking, well, let me do this first. What I want to do is we need to find the player's start position. Look at top row for player tile. We have a script for this already, but needs to be modified to add the exit based on first platform below player. All right, we're gonna have to come back to that. This is a lot, and honestly I should be making these their own issues, and I probably will break them out. In fact, let's actually do some of this stuff. And I'm trying to just articulate myself as I'm thinking through all the other stuff that I want to do today. So one of the cool things about this is that when you create new issues, you can actually reference other issues. So in this one, we're going to do find player start position. And what we need to do is look on top row for player tile and move player to that start column position. X start is always above the screen. All right, so we're assigning this to myself. This is a enhancement, and we're going to create this issue. And then once we get this, you'll see we have a number 12, which is what it was assigned to. Now we can come in here. We're going to get rid of this description, and we're just going to do number 2. Number 12. At least oh, you know what? I bet you... Let me restart this and see if that works. There we go. We have to just restart it. All right, so the next one is find the exit. So let's go back and create a new issue. We need to... First off, we need to add add level exit. So after finding player position, which we'll just mark down as number 12, I think it automatically links to it. After finding the player position, we need to modify the find exit script to look for the first platform below the player and add the exit tiles to its location. Then save the position for the game to use when the exit opens and the exit actor needs to be moved. Basically what this means is that what we're going to do here is we're going to take the actor's current position, and then we're going to find where the first platform is below the actor, and then we're going to create the door in this background tile. This right here is actually a sprite that sits on top of it. So we move that to its location when the game is over. So this is an enhancement, and I've assigned it to myself, and we're going to create this issue, and this is going to be number 13. So let me reload this, and we'll get rid of this, and we'll just make this number 13. And now the next issue we need to do is we need to find the enemy positions. Find enemy positions. Okay, so when tile map is rendered, we need to collect all of the locations for each enemy and place them. So two ways of doing this. Option one is that we could look for an enemy tile in the map. Or option two, which is I think what we really need to do, which is tie into the map editor logic to read where enemies need to be placed. We have not started. Logic has not been implemented yet. All right, so this will be where we need to find the enemy positions, and then once enemy position is found, we want to move enemy actor to position and initialize. All right, we're going to assign this to myself, and we're going to make this an enhancement, and we're going to create this. So this is number 14. So I'm just going to do this because I really think that this will actually work like this. And then replace tile actors where actors are needed in the scene. So I'm just going to do this here as a global. We're just going to do this as tile map cleanup. And basically what we want to do here is that we need to remove any temp tiles used as markers, player, enemies, etc., and make sure they are removed from the tile map. I think the player is really the only one that's going to be like this, and we have a lot of work to do in this, that's for sure. So let me finish this enhancement. We're going to create this. This should be 15. And I'm just going to remove this and do this as number 15. And then we're going to create this one. And what you'll see is that once we create that one, which should be tile map cleanup. No, wait, that wasn't it. Find enemy position, add lib, find player star position, add in star. Did we just not get reset level? Oh, here we go. Reset level logic. So as you can see now, it's pulled in each one of these tasks. So we've now sort of linked them all together. I think the first thing we're going to do is let's start with the player start position, because this is the easiest one to figure out. And what we're going to do is in the tile map editor, I wanted to make it where whenever you're in this row up here, you can draw the player, and then we'll be able to look for that player sprite, and then we'll know what the player's location is. So there's a bunch of stuff here that I need to figure out, and let me do this. So we have, I'm going to make a new script called reset level. And then from this script, we're going to do comment, close this out, rename. So what we're going to do is I'm going to map out all of the high level steps that I need to do within this script. And this script is going to call the other scripts that are being used around here. So what we're going to do is we're going to need to do find player, comment, rename, to do, find exit, which we already have. And I'm going to actually insert a group before. We're going to make this a group, and we're going to call this rename find exit. So we'll put this in here, but we have a call script, and we're going to call the where is it, find exit. And then here we just need to pass in the player. No, I think we need to pass in an actor. What did I do for find exit? Right, actor A. So we're going to do A exit is the actor for the exit. So when we reset the level, what we're going to do is, let's see here, we're going to pass it in actor A, and for right now we're just going to call this A exit. And what I want to test out first is that since we already have this logic for I'm just trying to see what all this does here. Find exit, call script find exit. I actually want to move all this stuff into, actually, you know what, we're going to, this might actually be the better way to do this. Let's just copy this whole event and let's place it into the reset level logic. We'll delete this, and we're going to paste this event after. So what we're doing is we're just moving this around. We're going to take this and we're going to make this actor A. I don't even know what is using actor I. Okay. What is calling that variable? Script find exit. We're looking for the A exit. Actually, probably should just be, this is actually a P exit actor, because we're going to pass in this actor as a parameter. And then we have the tile X, we have the position, V game error. If we don't find it, we're going to do a error, and then we're just going to transition to the error scene. So now here, instead of calling all of this, let's disable this event. We're now going to add an event after, and we're going to call this reset. We're going to call a script, and in this script we're going to call reset the level. And the p exit actor is going to be this exit, and actor 1, I don't even know what's referencing this. So I want to fix that issue because I've had a bunch of issues where other things get. Let me put this here. We don't need this, delete. We don't need this, delete. And there's nothing here. If we disable this event, we lose that. So let's enable this event. And then I'm going to just see what there. So that's where this is. It's something in here is referencing V game error tile X scene. But I don't understand what's actually referencing a actor I. It's not that. Disable this event. It's not that. Oh, I see what it is. Oh, this is so, I hate when it does this. All right, let's re-enable these events. Enable event, enable event. And what we're looking for is this actor here. It should be tile X is less than 11. Right, okay. I remember what's going on now. Basically what's happening is that we have the exit up here in the top left off screen. And what we're basically saying is that we're going to run this script. And at the end of running this script, if the actor, which is this exit, hasn't moved, it's still less than 11, which means that it's above this area. Or it's technically above like this line here. That means that the exit wasn't found and it now needs to be moved. The problem is that this is using a property on an actor, but it didn't show me the icon of the actor, so I wasn't able to figure that out. So let me go back here. Again, we're going to call this p exit actor. And now, if I look back here, we call this script to reset the level. We're going to pass in the exit, and we'll run. And this should now, add the exit. Don't give me an error. Why was no exit found? And also here, when we get to this, we need to hide actor. And we need to just hide the player, which is giving me the wrong thing here, but that's fine. Now the real question is that we're passing in this script reset. So let's see, where is the find exit? All right, so what we're trying to figure out now is, I'm actually going to rename this p exit actor. What I'm trying to figure out is why it wasn't finding the tile. V temp next row. Let's do a breakpoint here. V temp next row. And now if we come here to the script tile picker, the reset level, when we call this, we need to pass in script find exit. Script find exit. Okay, this is a global variable. So we go through, we look through here. We're going to see now, I want to see that as we go through each one of these rows, I want to see what is being calculated there. So we have some temporary variables I think I'd set up. These are the cloud V, temp, ID, and next row. So if we watch this, next row goes to 12, 13, 14. This should be, it should find this at 16, 15, 16, but it hasn't moved. Temp ID. No exit found. So let's go back over to the reset level. And what I want to see is if this is actually looking at the right. It should be tile Y, I believe. Yeah, because X would just be this way. If we do tile Y, we're actually looking at the height. Let's see. I forgot to get rid of the, let me get rid of the breakpoint here. Still doing the same thing, huh? Wonder why. I want to see when we reset. Okay, first off, we're passing in the right actor. I want to see if we, when we find exit. I want to take out this error check real quick. Disable event. And on this, for init, I'm going to, hold on a second, let's insert a group. And we're going to call this rename, set up correct animation frame. Basically what I'm doing is I'm just trying to move some of this stuff around. Actually, you know what? I don't know if I need a group. Let me delete this. Set animation frame to 1. I'm going to disable this right here. This will set this to default. I don't think we need to do this anymore. We've set the animation speed to none. What I'm trying to see now is I just want to see without the error if it actually moves the sprite to a location, and is the problem with the error, or is the problem with that it's actually not finding the exit. And it just decides to crash, so something isn't right. Let's go back here to find exit. So if this equals this tile, we come here, we do this. All right, I want to put a breakpoint here. And let's see if this is actually getting called. Basically, I'm looking for, as I go through, I try to find the right tile. Once I find the tile, I draw the, or I move the sprite. So if we don't hit this breakpoint, that means that it's not finding that tile. But this is what I'm getting confused by, is that it's v temp next row. So when I look at v temp next row, I see it's 16. And then this tile X should be its own. This should be based on the player's X position. So I don't know why it's crashing. This is like a big problem I have with GP Studio, and I think it's just more of a limitation on my end. I really don't get these. I really don't get these visual coding things. So v temp next row. equals 21, which should exit us out of this. And actually, we should enable the else, and we should put this else in here. Because basically what we're doing is we're looping through, we're going to loop through all the tiles as long as this next row is below 20, which is the bottom of the screen. We're going to keep looping and looping and looping. But if we hit it, we're going to make this value 21, which should break this while loop. Then what I want to figure out here is what was dependent. What is making, hold on, let me disable this for a second. I don't know what's making this thing turn white. I think it has something to do with the fact that I may have moved the logic for fading in. Yeah, okay, that's what it was. There's no error here. The error is that somewhere in, let's see, reset level. Enable event. Ah, here we go. Let's cut this out here. Copy. We'll copy this event. We're going to delete this event. And we're going to disable this else. So what was happening was that the scene isn't fading back in. So I had it tied closely to this event. It looks like calling that scene fade in doesn't actually work unless you're on the scene itself, which is an easy fix to do. We're just going to paste this before, and here we're going to delete. Well, let's actually make sure this works before I delete this thing. All right, we've hit our breakpoint, and it's giving us the error, no exit. Let me go back and clear that out. Find exit. I want to get rid of that. Oh wait, where's reset level? I want to get rid of this condition here. Let's just disable this event for a second and see what is going on. I don't know why I have so many problems when I take code out of some part that's working and then move it somewhere else into its own file, that everything just breaks. All right, so we have this is in the right place. So I don't know why this is failing. Enable event. Script. We're passing in this actor. The actor is vgame error. Let me do this real quick. I'm going to create, I want to add an event before. We're going to set a variable. To a value, but we're going to set the value to a property, and the property is going to be this Y position. And we're going to make this variable, sure, we'll just call this A. And what I want to see is that let's do this as a variable, and we'll do variable A. And now when we call reset here, we are going to pass in, let's just use this temporary 0 and see what happens. Oh, I don't know if I have a breakpoint. Well, I should have a breakpoint. We should see. I don't know if I added a breakpoint to the. I didn't add the breakpoint to where. Let me see what. No, it's a different scene. All right, reset level. Change scene. So what I want to figure out is I want to put a breakpoint here and a breakpoint here. I want to see what this variable is, and then I want to see why it's triggering this error. So in the find exit, we're going to remove this because I'm convinced that it's actually moving the exit to the right position. All right, so I'm looking for, there's some temp 0 set to 1. That's weird. Why would that be set to 1? V next row. Get meta tile add. Wait, what are we doing here? We're incrementing this by 1. At this point, we're setting the actor's position to this temp next row. V temp row, then we make V temp row equal 21. And then in our restart level, we are calling the script to find the exit. We're passing in this. And we're using the property of the p-exit y as variable a. So that actor should have moved to that position. Let me actually just disable this event. Let me rerun it because I can see that the thing is at the right position. That was weird. Why did it get called twice? Oh, it's right, because it somehow went back into this. How do we store the... Let's come here for a second. Script reset level. Insert event before variable. We're going to set a variable to a value. The variable is going to be temp1, and we're going to set it to the property of the a exit y. And before we get to the game loop, before we fade in, insert event, set a breakpoint. So what I want to see is that it's going to trigger the, it's going to trigger this event because it should find the gate or the exit. It's supposed to move the sprite to the exit, and then that should be enough to say that the level is initialized correctly. But it doesn't seem to be working that way. So this is... I actually going to take a second to go through. I want to see what is going on these threads, or what's going on in this debugger, and what's actually configure editor. Like where it's actually breaking. So it's breaking here at fade in screen. That means I want to see if the temp 0 is 1 and temp 1. And then this temp and this temp is the same. Then we get to fade into the screen, which means temp 1, it says 16. And let's exit. Huh, I wonder if there's some sort of like race condition. I wonder, that's so weird, but this is the right position. By the time we get to here, it's correct. So what is failing inside of the call when we have this separate script? All right, so at this point, we're pausing we're running the debugger on find exit. This is fine. We're doing it on reset level. So at this point, we've moved the actor to the right position. We are using the right actor here, right? We're using the P exit. So this variable A, which really is temp 0, should actually reflect the correct value of this. And now let me move this one more time. We'll go to the next frame, which should be here. I don't know why this variable A is not working. I think there's something is going on where it's not moving the actor to the right position, because now when we get to the frame outside of it, it's showing the correct position 16. Like, watch this. If we copy this event, we disable this event here, and we put it right here. Insert, paste event before. We set this now to the property of the exit. Y. Game over, fine. Enable this event, and we disable this, and we disable this breakpoint. If we run it now, it will actually work correctly. I'm hoping. If not, then I have to just figure out why this actor is not moving to the right place. Nope. So I am wrong, which happens a lot around here. All right, so let's try to figure out how we can debug this, because I'm missing something, and I think this is one of the issues with the way that these functions work, or these scripts work, is that when you get like 2 levels deep on a script, it starts becoming really hard to figure out what the right script is to call, or what you're passing into it. Because what I'm noticing here is that right here, I don't know why it keeps defaulting to this player. I set it to this tile thing. I'm going to save this real quick. Let me rerun it, because I think this is what's happening. I think there's some bugs in just GB Studio where it doesn't save the reference to it doesn't save the reference to the actor you're actually trying to test. See there, now everything is working fine. So let's disable this for a second. Let's go back into our reset level. For reset level, we're passing this stuff in, and we're going to enable this event, and we're going to look on the property of exit Y, and we're going to see if this breaks. Now, the answer to this is going to be it's going to break, because we've been seeing this before. But let's enable this event, and then here, let's just make sure that we're not doing the check to see if we found the exit. Yep, fails. I'm trying to think of how to do this. The problem that I'm having right now is that I need to come up with a clean and consistent way to reset up the level, but also throw errors when an error happens. Just trying to think through why this would be failing. Why does it fail in reset level? We're finding this, we're doing this, and then in here, player find exit. We are setting the position here. I'm gonna move this. Let me insert an event before. We're gonna make a group. I don't know. I wonder if there's a problem where things get nested too much. And I'm actually just gonna copy this event out. And then on our reset level, I'm going to, instead of doing this here, I'm going to paste an event after. Whoops. I want to paste the event after, which will be this loop. Let's disable this. And I'm curious to see, this is set up correctly. Was this using a global? Global, this is set up to the player's X. This is correct. Now the P exit actor, we are setting the P exit actor Y. Oh, no, we're setting the P, we're setting this to the player's X, but we're setting it to the temporary row. And if not, we're just going to increment the rows. So this loop looks correct. And then this check. Let's see if this passes. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. But I bet you if I'm in the reset level, I bet you if I take this out and we disable this event and we rerun this, I bet you the door is going to be at the right location. All right, the door is at the right location, which means if we came back here, so I don't know what's going on. I think that there's something where one of these, when a child script moves an actor, it doesn't really take effect until the script is done. We can test this out one other way. Let's do this. We'll enable this event here, and we're going to check to see if the door is in the correct position. And then what I'll do is I'm going to copy that out into its own script, and then maybe what we can do is just have, maybe it's like one script needs to execute, then another script needs to execute, but they need to be executed independently. That works fine. So now let's copy this event, disable this event, and insert an event after. The problem that I'm having right now is this. Let me restart this. Okay, so the problem that I'm having and what I'm trying to figure out is that when the level restarts, we need to be able to call a script that will reset all the values. But the problem is that I'm seeing some sort of error where I can't properly validate whether the exit has been found inside a nested script. It only seems to work when it's on the main script, and I have no way of re-triggering something on the main script. So I think the only other way that I could probably do this would be to, maybe I need to set the map as a global variable, then reset the entire level, and then that would just rerun through all the script, versus Well, no. So, okay. The issue comes down to this. I want to be able to, when I run the tile map editor, I want to make sure that I can reset up the level and also validate it. So if we come into the level editor here, and then we go back to play, it should then rebuild this level, but I wonder, I'm gonna try something real quick. Attach start button. This is the logic we do when we attach a start button. Down, left. All right, this is reset. What I'm looking for is was edit mode selected? And then in edit mode, we attach the script to up, down, and left, A button. So all of this stuff right here is our edit mode. Was restart selected? All right, here we go. If play map was selected, what we're going to do is I'm actually going to insert an event before, and I just want to see scene, change scene. And so now what happens is that if we where did that get pasted to? We display the menu. We are checking if this is 0. All right, we're now going to go back to the meta tile map, and we're going to, I wonder if we can just do this instant. And then here, let's disable this event. And I want to see if it just resets the player. We're going to edit. Here's our level. And now we're going to play. And it restarts this and puts the player somewhere else. So that was a really weird transition. Also, I don't know why the clouds decide to pop up over this. There's going to be a lot of cleanup I need to do. We'll replay this, and then it rebuilds the map. So let's do this. We're just going to make this a... Excuse me, we're going to make this a very fast restart. I think this might be the way to go. All right, I think that's what we're going to wind up having to do, is that when you go back to play the game, after you've done the tile map editing stuff, we're just going to restart the whole thing. Although I am noticing one really weird thing that's happening now, is that when we restart this level, it keeps drawing these stars. How does that happen? Is something getting corrupted when it redraws it? All right, we'll go to edit. Now we're going to go to play. We restart, and now those two stars get drawn. But why were these not removed is the question. All right, so what I'm going to do is this. I'm just going to assume, let's just assume that this works. It doesn't really matter where we put the player. What we want to do is, we don't even need to do this. We can disable this, I think. Maybe we should, you know what, let's, hold on, stop this. Stop. We're going to enable this event, and we're going to move it here. So what's actually going to happen is that rename, remove button actions, and then rename reset or reload entire scene. So what my thinking is that what I think we're seeing is that when we go to another level, even if we're resetting to the same level, GB Studio isn't actually resetting the level. Whatever changes we're making to the tile map and all that stuff is technically persistent when we reset. And so it's going to be our job to say, okay, when the map resets, we need to now clear out all the other garbage that happened before. And that will come later when I actually get the tile map editor in, because in essence, what the plan is going to be is something like this. Before a level loads, there's going to be a code that represents the tile map for the code. Or the code for the tile map, I should say. So as you can see here, I think if I start like entering in stuff, you'll see that the code starts getting generated, right? And that means that before we load the level, no matter what, we have to have this code present. Or it'll just come to some sort of empty level. We can figure out a default. And then as the tile map editor is making changes to the code, when we restart the level, we're going to follow that code and rebuild everything based on that code, not on what existed in the level before. So we have to come up with a way of just wiping all this stuff. And I think that's sort of where my head's at right now, because all this stuff is not working really well. I don't know why these like nested calls don't seem to want to work. So let me enable this event, and then I'm going to disable this event and do this. Find exit. We're going to disable this event because we don't need to find the exit. Oh, we don't need to fade back in if there's an error. And now this should always place the exit at the right location, if that location has been found. So we stop this, we come in, and now we want to play the game. It resets, and then it tells us there's no exit. What is going on? Let's insert a breakpoint here. I might need to go through, find all the variables that I'm using, these global variables, and then just clear them all out. All right, so we're hitting this point. We restart, we found the level. Now, or we found the exit. Now when we restart it, it hits this trigger point. I wish we could see the actors' positions. as part of the debugger. I may be able to piece it together from here. Temp next row 20. All right. Two things are happening that are annoying me right now. First off, disable automatic fade in, insert event after, fade screen in at fastest. All right, so the first issue that was annoying me was the fact that when we came to the error screen, I could still see like the player stupid thing flicker. So let me just make sure I fix that, and then I'm gonna go in and try to figure out why restarting the level doesn't correctly position the exit. Oh, I know why it's not correctly positioning the exit. The reason why is because the player is starting off to the side, because I didn't really set the correct position for the player. So it can't find the map, and it just gives us our exit. Perfect. Okay. All right. At least I know how to fix that. So this goes back to the other issue we have, which is this is the enemy init. This event group is, let's rename this, set up clouds. So this sets up the clouds. This sets up the enemies. Let's rename this. And then what we're going to do is, where is find exit? We're going to copy this script. I'm going to reuse this reset level because it didn't work out. Let's delete everything in here. Delete. And we're going to call this script find player. And let's just make a group real quick so I can paste this in. Paste event after, and then we can delete this. So the reason why I did this is that I wanted to figure out, I wanted to just reuse some of the logic that I already had for finding this exit, and we're just going to use it for this player. So the player is located at row 10. And the idea is in the tile map is that you'll be able to, when you place down in the tile map the player, it'll just draw a player tile somewhere along this row. And this is the only place where you could do it. The player will always start above the tile map, but this is the visual indicator that we're going to use to find where the player is. So we're going to start on row 10. And instead of going through and looping from this down vertically, we're going to go the opposite way. And what that means is that we're going to go from the second column to the end column. And as we do that, we're then going to look for it. So the difference here is that what we're going to do is, actually, you know what? We're going to use this. We're going to use this. We're going to set this over to, let's just set this over to 1. Let's make this P actor. Although I don't think we really need the actor at all. I think we can just, the player's global, so we can just reference it directly. So, all right, so even though this is next row, we're just going to use this as a temporary variable. We're going to start it at 1, and then we're going to increment this loop. So while this is less than 22, we are going to check the temp next row. So let's change this here. We're going to change this to a variable temp next row. And here, this is going to be a property. Oh no, actually this is going to be a number. We're just hard coding this to 10, right? This is what we're at. We're on row 10. So it just means that we're going to go through and we're going to get the meta tile data at all of the different columns within row 10. And then here we're going to test to see what this tile ID equals and if it equals what we're looking for. So I'm going to make a new constant here, and we're going to call this constant C player. C tile player. And what's going to wind up happening is that this is 16, this is technically 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. We're going to make this value 20, and we're just going to compare that every time we do this. Oh, I'm going to make my name here. I didn't give it a name. All right, so let's go back into our find player. So now we're going to go through and we want to compare this to constant tile player. I don't like that name. Exit tile. Ah, cool. I have two of them too, which I knew was screwing me up. This is C player tile ID. And now let's make sure we selected the correct one here. This is back in our find player. We want to compare this C player tile ID to the temporary tile that we've gotten. And if we found a match, what we're going to do is we're going to place the player, and we're going to set their X position equal to the variable of where we're located right now, which is temp next row, right? And the Y value is always going to be hard-coded, and we're going to set the player to zero, basically. Then we're going to set this now to, I think the loop was going through, where is the condition? While next temp X equals 11. Now this needs to be 22. We're going to set this to 23. And then when we're, if it hasn't found a match, this is going to keep incrementing the row, which we'll fix that later. So now we're going to call, I said that with a really heavy New York accent. I just heard myself say it. Set up enemies. Let's do this. Insert event before. Set up player. Oh, make this a group. And we're going to paste an event. Oh no, we're just going to call this script. Call script find player. All right, so at this point, what should happen is this. We're going to find the player first. Let me rename this event. Find player. We're going to find out where the player goes. I'm going to, just to make sure that we're doing this correctly, I'm going to move the player over here. Well, we'll just move him over here. This way, we'll know right away whether this is working or not, because the player will be off screen, everything will give an error, and we won't be able to find the exit. All right, run this, and our player got moved back into this position. So if we didn't run this, like let's disable this event, you'll see that we'll hit an error, because now the only way that the tile map works is that it looks for where the player start column is, and then it looks down from there to see if there's any exit. I need to remove that breakpoint, and we get no exit, right? So let's do this. Let's enable this event, and this will actually fix the other problem we had. When we restart the level, it threw an error because it couldn't find the exit, and the reason for that is when we restarted the level, the player was moved off to the side, and now this will fix that issue. So let's start this, Let's play the game. It restarts, and we play, and we now have our player back to the right position. Let me go find this exit and remove this condition. Is it here, or that breakpoint? I think it's on the actual... Yeah, it's right here. Okay. So let's set breakpoint. We disable this. Sorry, we're calling the script here. And now what we're looking for is rename this event. Test if exit was found. And we're going to copy this event here. And when we set up the player, find our player, we're going to paste this event after. We're going to rename this. And we're going to see if test if player was found. And so what we're going to look for now is that we want to make sure that the player's property, we want to look for the player's X value is less than 22. Is less than 22. And then we're going to set the vgame error to C error no exit. We're going to make a new one called C error no player. I'm trying to find the C error no exit is 1. This is going to be 2. And when we come here, we're going to test for this exit. Let's copy this event. I want to do this a different way, but let's just insert the event before. Whoops, sorry. I want to paste the event before, and we're going to look for this, and we're going to look for C error no player. No player. We're going to have to do a couple things here. Disable event. Disable the else here. We're going to disable the else here. Whoops, I disabled the whole thing. Disable the else. And then insert event before. And we're going to make this a comment. And rename. To do. Need a unknown error here. There needs to be a flag that if an error wasn't found, to call unknown error. All right, we'll come back to this later. This basically just has to do with if we come in here and we, where was it? It's in here, I think. We enable the else. We have this unknown error. We're going to move this to here, and let's disable this event, or disable this else. Enable this else. We're going to delete this because we don't need it, and then we're going to delete this else, or disable this else. So right now what'll happen is that if we run this, I'm trying to think of what I did before to trigger the player not being found, or to trigger the tile map. I have to disable the player thing. All right, we're gonna go through and just check all these bugs. All right, so that's not a good sign. Tested player was found. See edit player mode. No. This is C error no player. Then we go to error. How do I break things like this? I think this is like a bigger problem of like me just like, I mean, I'm not even technically vibe coding, but like this idea of like, I'm just like, I see something, I start trying to fix it, and then I go down and I fix too many things and I wind up breaking stuff. Let me move this here. Let's disable this event and disable this event real quick and just see if the player goes back to where they need to be. All right, that worked. So now I want to find the player. Let's enable this event and restart it and see if that caused the problem. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention to something. All right, so this should now work when let's see here, reset play. Let's see. Now when we restart, okay, it does move. It moves the player here, but if I remember correctly, let me disable this real quick. If I disable this and I move here, it won't, when we restart the game, it won't find the player because it moves the player to the like 0, 0 or something like off screen, because I never set it when I changed scenes. And that was what we were trying to fix here. Yeah. I think the problem with what's going on here is that this is the error screen that we're on right now, and it's not displaying errors anymore. Let me come here. I just want to disable this, and see if there's an unknown error. Because for some reason I decided to fix all the error stuff and the level setup at the same time, which technically they're actually dependent on each other, so it needs to happen. So we play this, and I don't know why it's not coming. Is it not getting to this scene? Let's insert a breakpoint here, and let's see if this is actually working. So the more I'm thinking about this, well, the more I'm thinking about this as we do this, I do think I want when the level starts up, I want it to draw all the tiles to the background, and then I will search all the tiles and try to find what each of them are supposed to be. Let's do this, and we'll play. And yeah, we're not even getting to this. Is it not switching scenes? Let's set a breakpoint here and rerun this. All right, so now if we restart the level, we play, we hit the debugger, go to these exits, and then I think it transitions, maybe because it's never faded in, it can't fade out. Insert event before. That can't be right. If you're just tuning in, so I'm working on the logic right now to reset the level once the tile map editor has created a code, which I don't have the code yet. We're just sort of hard coding a couple things. And I'm trying to figure out why the errors are not getting called. All right, so this is something with the error page. The error page hasn't... Let's just enable automatic fade in. Screen fade in automatic. Let me disable this real quick. Let me disable this. All this stuff is disabled, and what we have is fade in screen, and then we have the unknown error. So there has to be some error checking involved in this, because I don't want people just to be able to write that, like put in like any sort of random code and it not work. So, and if you haven't seen, this is basically the code that's being generated for the level is not actually working correctly. But let's go back here. We're going to play it. It's going to restart the level, and this should throw an error. Okay, unknown error. So that's really weird. I don't know why that wasn't. So let's enable this event. Enable this event. And what we're going to do is insert a we'll insert a variable before variable, whoops, set boolean, or set to true. And what we're going to do is we're just going to set one of these local, we'll just do temporary 0. We don't even really need this to be. If this is true, great. 0 is false. So if this is true, we'll copy this here. Copy event. We're going to paste this event before. And then here, before we display this unknown error, we're going to insert event before. We're going to create an event before this that's going to, if variable is true, we'll see if local 0 is true. Then we're going to call this unknown error, and the screen should automatically fade in. And in fact, I'm going to see if I can do this. I think the problem was that, oh, I see. Ah, that's interesting. All right, so it's actually forcing this to, I think there must be something with the display where in order to display this message, it has to be faded in. I guess that would make sense because I think it just writes that to the background. So let's see if this condition works real quick. And then I'll do another test just to force it into triggering. So we restart the level. We hit our debug point, and now it's going to tell us that we have an exit with no, an error with no exit, right? And if we did it this way, let me get rid of this breakpoint, star setup. Let's close this out. Let's close out the enemies right now. And here, if we enable this event, let's start this. All right, so now it's giving us the error that there's no player to be found. So at least we know this works. The real question though is why can it not find the player? So all right, I'm gonna take a quick break. I will be right back, and then we will continue where I left off, and we'll get the player going. Once we get the player going, we're gonna get the enemies going. And then once we're done with the enemies, we should have the fully all the logic we need to restart the level, and then that'll give me what I need to do in order to create the final tile map code, and that will complete this game, or at least the core functionality of this game, and then I'll just do some polish and stuff over the next couple of weeks and then submit it to the Game Jam. So I will be right back. All right, I am back. Let's see. When we last left off, I wasn't able to get the player. For some reason, the player script is failing to find the player. Excuse me. Let me move this over, and we'll rerun this, and we'll just make sure that this is actually working. So it's going to give me the error that it has not found the player. Fine. Then why hasn't it found the error? So script find player. Let's come back to this script to find the player. Wait, what does the script player start? Is this being called anywhere? Use a script move cursor. All right. Interesting. I don't remember what this script does. We'll have to come back to that later. Let's do this. Script find player. So has anything changed with our... Has anything here changed with the C player tile ID? C player tile ID is 20. This is still 20. I'm going to set a breakpoint here and just see if it actually gets to the place where it moves the player, because if it doesn't move the player, then that's part of where the breakdown is. Okay. So it did get to here. Let's see. What, Let's set the breakpoint here. Let's remove it. And I'm going to test to see what this vtemp next x is. Or next row, which is still the wrong variable name because we're just reusing it. V next x is 112. That's the cloud, sorry. Vtemp tile v next row is 10, which is correct. Maybe the issue is with this. Here's why. We need to change the comparison. If this is greater than, we'll just say if it's greater than 21, because we have the player over here. So if this is greater than 21, then we have not found the player and the player hasn't been moved. I almost put my drink on my wireless charging pad. That probably wouldn't have been smart. I thought it was a coaster. All right, so the player gets moved. We're good to go here. We're going to restart the level, and we're back to where we need to be. And we kill this guy, and we never moved to this exit, so let's go back and let's fix the exit now that we know that this is working. Enable event and enable event. And then on update, it should do this. Okay, let's see now if the exit works. There's quite a bit of moving parts in this game. That was weird. I noticed that the collision box wasn't going. All right, it's the game over. We win. All right, now let's edit this, and if we play it, it should reload and everything resets itself. All right, so we're getting close. So the next thing that I want to do actually is there was one other thing that I noticed, and if we come back into here, which is let's see here. What I'm looking for now is when I attach the start button, there was a there's a menu here to edit, restart, and quit. So when we click restart, we want to actually just go back to the beginning of the level. So let me see where we find if condition temp 0 map editor input. Right, so we want to do a condition here. Was restart selected? So all we need to do now is insert an event before. We'll go to the scene, and we're going to change the scene back to itself. We don't need to worry about where to put the player. We're going to delete this, and we're going to delete this. And now, let's give this a try. Waiting for this thing to compile is a little bit time consuming, huh? What did I do to make this thing take so long to recompile? All right, just to test this out, we're gonna kill one of these guys. And yeah, we'll do this here. So now we're going to move down to restart. It should restart the level, and everything goes back to how it should be. And Bob's your uncle. I didn't mean to hit that. Now that's interesting. Now restarting the level didn't reset the lock animation, huh? I wonder if that thing is reset. Let's try that again. I want to kill this guy and kill this guy. Our level's good. All right, so we can exit. Now let's restart. And I'm going to kill this guy and kill this guy. And all right, now it works. I don't know what that was all about. Let's edit the level. Interesting. Huh, it's telling me, oh, that's annoying. Okay, that's a whole other issue I need to deal with. And let me add this issue in. It's a new issue, and what I want to do is disable actors in edit mode. Actors still move and respond to events in edit mode. Need to make them stop. Remove all enemies. Shut down door. Let's make this a checklist. Do this. I'm going to file this as a bug. I'm going to create this bug. Now, the way that we can do this is here. When we go to edit mode, let's see. So right now we're in edit mode. Toggle edit mode. We map the editor input. Then what we're going to do is we're going to make a new group. And we're going to call this, rename, disable actors. I'm just making sure I'm in the right one. Yeah, okay. So what we're going to do here, we're going to start this off with the door. And let's disable or deactivate the actor. We're going to deactivate the exit. Let's copy this event. Let's paste this event after. We're going to disable Walker 1, and we're going to paste this event after, and we're going to disable Walker 2. So now what should happen is that we won't get into that scenario where the exit is constantly checking to see if the enemies have been killed in order to show that the game has been over. We're going to automatically remove the exit and clean everything up. So actually, let me get out of this real quick. Let's kill these guys. Oh, almost was able to bounce off of them. All right, game over, exit, fine. Now what I want to do is we're going to go to edit mode. It just fixed it, but there is a weird delay with that. And let me try this. Let's go here. Let's go back to play. We'll restart. And now if I go into edit mode, what I was trying to do, okay, look, that took a minute for it to figure itself out, huh? But that's fine. I'm fine with that, because we can now hit play. It'll restart. And we can, oh, that's interesting. The clouds stay in the same position. When we go to edit, they go away. I think what we need to do is we need to actually put this in, okay, I know what we need to do. We're just running this in the wrong place. Let's copy this event and then delete it because we don't need it. What we need to do is script change mode. When we go in and toggle the edit mode, so vnew mode, there's something in here, script toggle edit mode, right? They're technically activate player. It's funny. I want to reverse this because what I'm looking at is we no longer do this because we don't go back to now. In order for us to replay the level, we just restart the whole thing. So set background palettes, wait 5 seconds. Here's the delay. So here we're deactivating the player, right? So let's paste this event after. We'll put the player in here too. So we're going to deactivate the player. We're going to deactivate B, C, and D for right now. And now I got to remember where we call this. Okay, here we go. So this is going to be the exit. This is enemy walker 1 and enemy walker 2. And if we come back here into the toggle edit, we're going to rename this to P exit actor, P enemy 1 actor, P enemy 2 actor. And now, if we do this again, this should actually get rid of the actors right away. Because what was happening is that there was a wait being called to fade the screen down when we went into edit mode, and see how now it's instant. So now if we go back to play, it'll reset the level. We come here, let's kill this guy, kill this guy. And hey, that didn't toggle the game over thing. I'm curious. I think there might be something. There might be a bug with this. Whatever is up with these stars here and why they're duplicating the stars. All right. I think I know what's happening with the stars too. When we go to script player start, there's a script player display stars. Where do we call display stars? Else. Find player, setup enemies, star setup. We pass it in first star sprite, next X 0 0 script display. V enemies alive. Let's do this here. I don't think we are resetting. Insert event after variable. We're not resetting the number of enemies that are alive. It's 0. I'm going to make a new group actually here. And then we can move this group around later. But in here, we're going to rename this reset alive. Did I write that right? enemies, right? Let's insert an event after variable to value. Let's reset the dead enemies to 0. Rename, reset, dead enemies. All right, so I think that was what that little bug was, but we're getting a lot closer now to this thing functioning. Although I don't want to like jinx myself, but like I think we've actually, whoops, we're actually making some progress today. All right, kill this guy, and there's our door, right? So now we're gonna exit this, go into our tile map editor, and then we're gonna play again, and it'll restart the level, right? And I think the problem before was that if we restarted the level right here, oh no, wait, let's just play. It would keep aggregating the enemies. And there we go. All right, and you'll notice it's no longer drawing the additional like stars there. So that fixed that, and we can close this one out. I'm sure we'll have to come back to it at some point, but right now, that's it. We have the reset logic. So find the player start position. We've closed this out. We have closed out add the level exit. We need to do this one next. So there's one other thing that I want to test real quick, and that's going to require us to just go into the tile map editor and do some editing real quick. So we're in Reaperboy meta tiles. This is on my NAS, and we can load up assets. All right, so now I want to go into backgrounds. We're going to go to meta level tile, meta tile level. And just for right now, we're going to delete this and save it. And what should happen is that this is going to now throw an error that it cannot find the player. And then once we verify that this this works, then we're going to go and we're going to fix the way that the exit works. All right, see, no player found. Perfect. All right. So now let's go ahead. We'll reset the player just so we have the player. But what I want to do now is I'm going to I want to do this. I'm going to get rid of this. And we're going to save it. And what's going to wind up happening now is that when we come back here and we go into our game and we reload the assets, what's going to wind up happening is that it's going to throw an error that it can't find the exit. And that's because we were actually looking for the exit tile. But I'm going to change this now to be that wherever the player is placed, that exit happens. That was a little weird how that worked. I want to actually fix something. That should not have happened like that. Why did it show? Why did it show this fade in? All right, let me delete this. Let me disable the else here. So we have find exit, and then we test if the exit is found. Good. Find exit. Star setup. Setup enemies. Find player. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to move this find exit up to here. because the way that the thing should work, cloud setup should be like the last thing we do. And this is all the logic for configuring the editor. And we're going to rename this reset global variables. All right, so now what happens is that we add all the logic for configuring the editor, we find the player, we find the exit, and these two have their own checks to make sure that they fail if we cannot do that. We'll let this build real quick and then we'll, there we go. Okay, no exit. I don't know why it still fades in, but we can come back to that later. I'm not going to worry about that right now. What I do need to worry about is we'll save this, and now we need to go into our find exit, and we're going to change this exit top left tile ID. We're going to leave that the same, but what we're going to do is we're going to create a new oops, I don't want a new script. I want a new constant, and we're going to call this constant C platform. Well, yeah, platform tile ID. Now, this is going to be a bit of a challenge. Hold on. What we need to look for is we need to look for a couple different things, because all right, what we're going to do is this. There are only two valid tiles that we can place this exit on. We can either place, and I'll just zoom in a little bit more. So we can either place a exit here or here. And the reason for that is that if we found that this is where the exit is, I guess we can shift it over. So we're going to test for all three of these. That just makes it a little bit more complicated. But what we're going to do is platform left tile ID. And if we come back over to here, we will see that our ID is 4. And I feel like I have these somewhere because I was using them for when I was, well, we'll just create them. If I need to get rid of them later, I'll just deal with that. All right, so this is now middle tile ID, which is 5. And then we're going to create one more constant called right tile ID. And this is going to be 6. All right, so now what we're going to do is we now need to go back into our find exit script. And this while loop, you can see right here, we're testing for a tile at this position, right? Let me close a lot of this stuff up. If this equals, all right, so the first thing we're doing is we're getting the tile position, or we're getting the tile at that position. And here we're doing the checks to move this around. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to create a variable, start at row 11, var temp. Let's insert an event, a variable before, var set to false, and I'm just going to change this to p found platform. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to move this out of this while loop down here, and we're going to insert an event before if true, All right, so what's going to happen now is that we're going to have to test through 3 different... Wait, is there a switch or something? I know there's a switch in C, but miscellaneous... No, I want to find control flow. Yeah, there's a switch. All right, well, that solves one part of the problem. Basically, what we're going to do is if we're looking for temp, vtemp next row, vtemp tile ID, we have 3 of these conditions, and we're going to make this a constant, and we're going to look for C player. This is platform left. This constant is going to be platform middle. And this constant is going to be platform end. All right. So, all right, this actually helps us a lot, because one thing I noticed is that there isn't an else if condition. There's only else, or there's only if or else. So there's no way to really like stagger a condition, but the switch is what we really need, because what we're going to do is we need to test a ton of different tiles at the same time and just see, or we need to test a tile, but there's 3 different variations of it. So we need to figure out which one of these variations there are. So here, we're just going to set a variable to true, and we're going to if platform found. So now, copy event. Let's just rename this. Set platform. Set found flag to true. All right. So we're going to copy this guy. And we're going to paste 3 of them below. Paste after and paste after. So that means that we're going to do this. And we're going to do this. And then on the switch, let's disable the else, which should be that last statement. So basically, there was one other one that's like a catch-all in a switch. We don't need that. So now we're going to do this. We're going to say found platform, found platform, found platform. All right. So now if we found this platform equals false. We want to reset this. Come on. You can scroll up to the top. You can do it. All right. So the first thing we do is we want to rename this event reset found flag. All right, so we're going to set this to false. Then we're going to do a switch as we go through. Wait, am I like outside of my while loop now? I'm going to roll this code back for a second, because somewhere along the lines I screwed something up, and I want to figure out what I did. But now it's not letting me go back any further. There's my while loop. Here's my while loop right here. Start at row 11. All right, this just needs to move into my while loop. Yep, there we go. Okay. So, all right, to restart this, we're going to reset the reset found flag to false. We're going to set up the start row count at 11. And then we have this while loop. And while we loop through everything, we took the player's start position column, and we're going to go down through each of the rows until we find a platform that we can put the exit on. And so we are doing this. There's nothing needs to change here in this. And now in our switch, we're now taking whatever this tile ID is, we're now testing it between three options. We're looking for the left platform, the middle platform, or the right platform. And then we're setting a flag for all these things to be true. Then what we also need to do next is that after this switch, we're going to move the condition here, because what we want to do with this condition is we basically want to say, hey, if we found this platform, we're now going to deal with all the exit stuff, and we're going to set the counter above the while loop so that it exits out of the while loop, or it'll just keep incrementing. So let's give this a try. Theoretically, this should work, but I say that I think about like everything. The idea is that since all we're doing now is we're looking for a platform, as soon as we find a platform, it's going to designate that as the exit. Oh, it just does not like this at all. Cool. It's because I said it was going to work. Let's insert a... Oh, I know why. That's because we are calling this in a way, and we are not passing in the variable to use. Set up cloud star, set up enemies, find exit, call the script. We need to pass in... Yeah, look at this thing. P found platform, which should be a Boolean, is now resorting to a property. So we're going to make this a... We want to put in a variable here, and we're just going to use temp 0 for right now. We don't need anything else. Seems to be... Oh no, there we go. All right, that didn't work either. I'm going to do a breakpoint here, and let's see if the exit was even found. Or let's see if the script actually executed, or it's just endlessly stuck in a while loop. The answer to that is that it is endlessly stuck in a while loop. So, all right, so now let's go back to our find exit, and let's figure out why this guy is not working. So we set the flag, start the row, while loop. We get the meta tile position. We're in the switch. So there's two places I want to test. I want to set a breakpoint here, right before we get into our... No. Actually, let me disable that. I want to do this right before we get to our switch. So we'll set a breakpoint, and let's see what happens. It may be that it's not actually finding a platform where the player is, and if that's the case, then we just need to do some other verification. So the next row is 11. I'm not seeing the next row increment, which is a problem. So let me close this switch up. The reason is here. This increment now needs to be moved out of this condition, because we're now testing to see if a platform is found. If the platform is not found, then we're going to increment this by 1 and continue to iterate through everything. And that means we can come in here and we can disable this else, and let's disable this breakpoint, and let's see if this works. What is going on with the music? Why? I thought I had it on random, but it feels like it's just playing the same. Oh, there we go. All right, so we are still not working. All right, let's do this now. let's set a breakpoint here, and we'll see what happens after every iteration. All right, so before we do anything, let's go and test this. We're gonna look at our variables. So we're looking at the next row. That should increment to 12, 13, 14, 15. Whoops, something happened. 17, 18, 19. All right, so it's stuck on 17, which means that the while loop is not correctly exiting. So now if I look here, whoops. Oh, it does not like scrolling today? All right. Or drag and drop, whatever. Oh, it is like fighting me. Come on, you can do it. Get into your position. If we look here, it's stopped at 17. This is where it should be. And I just want to redouble check that real quick. Is that should be, if it stops at 17, that means that it found the tile. So we are at temp X. We're looking for next row. So we're at 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. And now what's happening is that every time I do this, it's stuck at 17. So it has found a tile. So now what we need to do is if we go back into our find exit and we look at while switch, this is true, this is true, this is true. So now if we found this platform, let's insert a breakpoint here, but we want to make sure is that we then we move the exit to the right position. And then we move the, then we increase the row to 21, and that should actually break the loop. Let's see if it's getting down to this condition. Let's see, it's at 5, it's a 16, and now it's a 17. So did it not run this? Disable breakpoint. Let's see if it hit this again. This is the first time I'm using a switch in GB Studio, so I don't know, maybe it doesn't work how I'm expecting, or I'm just missing something, but no, it caught this. Right? Isn't this where we are? Let me make sure that there's no other breakpoint anywhere. If I disable this breakpoint, let's see if this runs. All right, so we're not hitting any breakpoints, so that's a good sign. That means that it was actually hitting this breakpoint. Let's set up a new breakpoint here. All right, that's not good. Here's why. Here's the condition. What really needs to happen is that we now have this condition. We need to take all this stuff out of here because this no longer matters. That's what was breaking it. I was originally testing to see if these things it met the old tile, but we now have that because we have this flag. Let's do this and let's see if this actually works. All right, there we go. So now if we kill these guys, what we'll see is that the sprite is going to be created on top of the platform. And now is the moment of truth where we need to do the logic that moves the guy around. So what I want to do is I want to set up something here where before we put the exit down, it needs to be positioned correctly. And so we have this vtemp next row. So what we're going to do is before we set this, we're going to insert an event before, and we're going to set the variable. Actually, we're just going to decrement by 1. And what we're going to do is we're going to decrease the next row by 1. And the reason why we do that is that we're going to make sure that we just put the exit one tile above, which will become now the it'll become the my brain's starting to like shut down because it's like it's lunchtime, even though I still have like 40 minutes. It'll now become the whoops, I don't want to go into the editor. It will now go above the platform, as we can see. But there's a scenario that I want to check out and test for. And that scenario is if we moved the player here, you'll see that this is going to screw up the tile map. Or at least it's going to screw up the way the exit looks. Reload our assets. We'll move the player. And now let's take a look at what happens. So what we're testing for is that if the player lands on if the player is going to land on the edge of the platform, right? Like right here, we're going to have to move the, why can't I bounce off of this guy? See how now the exit is here. So I wanted to do something with this script. I actually wanted to pass in, I wanted to get rid of this vtemp next, and I wanted to pass in a new value, but I think you can only, I think the main, yeah, let's try this. All right, I'm going to save my code, and we're going to give this variable A, and we're going to call this variable A. We're going to call this P next. Oh, sorry, it wasn't variable A. Yeah, P next row. And now everywhere we have here, we're going to do P next row, vtemp tile ID, P platform found. So then here we're going to do P platform, exit actor, V next row, V next row, V next row. And then here we're going to set this to V next row. And now when we call this script, we're going to pass in a new variable. We're going to make this a variable, and I was going to set it to 1, but let's set local 4, and we're going to create, let me rename local 4 to local next row. And I just want to see if this still works. Basically what I'm doing is I want to pass in these variables, and I want to stop using these global variables. This way the script is scoped to itself a little bit better. There we go. Let's do this. We'll just keep dying until we kill something. All right, so the map still works, great. And now I want to do the same thing for this find player. We were using this vtemp next, right? Next row, we're going to call this variable A, and we're going to call this p next x, and wherever we did, or p next, yeah, next, actually for this guy it's p next column. We'll just do it this way. And then we're going to look for column. vtemp next is going to be next column. vtemp tile ID, find vtemp player, vtemp next column. And we're going to make this next column, v next column. So now here where we set up the player, we're going to pass in local 5. And we're going to call this L next column. And now let's just make sure that the player still works. All right, good. The player works and that works, and we kill, we exit, we're all good to go. All right, so now going back to our find exit, what we're going to do is we're going to basically, here we're going to set the next row to 11, right? But we're going to create a new variable above it. We're going to call this variable, we'll set this to a value, and this variable, start at 11, is going to be C, which is going to be called P next column. And the idea here is that we're going to set the, we're actually just going to call this P column. And we're going to set the column to the property of the player's column, which is X. Now, down here where we set the value, we basically are using player tile here. We're going to set this number, we're going to set this to a variable, and we're going to call this P column. And here we're going to pass in to the find player. We're going to pass in here P or L next column. All right, and what I'm really doing here is I'm passing down these variables because what we're going to do is when we see that the exit is at the end of a platform, we're going to shift it over to the left. And I'll explain that a little bit more. I just want to see if this actually works real quick. And what it should do is it should still put the exit back in the original location. Now, the reason why I'm going to shift the exit over one tile if we come across the edge, we know that the rules are going to be in the tile map editor that if you put a tile like this here, this end cap, there's always a platform always has to be 2 tiles wide. And that's because I always wanted it to fit the exit. So now let's come here, we'll kill these guys, and you see the exit's still there. Watch this trick. Now what we can do is when we go back into our find exit, when we get to this one here in the switch statement, where we're seeing that we're at platform right, here we're going to set the flag, but we're going to set another variable right after it. So insert after variable, we're going to set this to the value of, we want the, oh, actually, you know what? We can do it this way. Delete event. We're just going to insert an event after for decreasing this value by 1. So now, what's going to happen is that it's the parser is going to detect that we are at the edge of that the player was dropped off at the edge of a platform, and the map, the exit's going to be. I don't like that you can't bounce back off them. See how it now centered this correctly? So it's now always going to put this on a platform. So all right, so we have now completed that task, which was issues, tile map cleanup. No, wait, restart level logic, find, add level exit. All right, so we have now done this. Mark is completed. And now the real question is, how are we going to handle enemies? So I got about, I don't know, I'd say 30 minutes, which is probably not enough time to do this, but what we can do is, I think I'm going to do this in GB Studios, like visual scripting stuff for now. I'll see if the performance has any impact, because maybe I'll just write my own script. But in essence, what we're going to do is we're going to loop through all the tiles, and then we're going to figure out which tiles actually have enemies on them. And now to make this work, we're going to draw 2 enemies. Where's the background meta tiles? So I'm just going to put this guy here. So we're going to put 1 enemy here, and we're going to put 1 enemy here. And what we actually can do, I might just come back and try to figure this out later, is that we only have this. Let me do this real quick. Let's move all this over by 1. We're going to put this here. And just because I'm an overachiever, we're going to put another enemy tile here. So we need to save this meta tile here, and we also need to save the meta tiles in the tile set. And I'm actually, just so that we can make sure this is going to work when I set this up, we're going to set one guy up. Actually, no, wait, we want this guy to be set to the left, and we want this guy to be to the right. We'll save the tile map. We save the tile sheets. And now if we come back into here, we should be able to reload our assets and see our 2 enemies. And we now see our 2 enemies in here. So the reason why I did that is that what we're going to do, I think I know exactly how I want to do this tile map editor now, is that the code is simply going to draw, the code is going to match up to specific tiles. And then when we place those tiles down, that will dictate, like in this case, which direction the enemy is. So let's do this. We're going to create a new script, and we're going to call this script find enemies. And we're going to use the player's script in order to make this work. So let's come in here. I'm going to copy this event. And when we find the enemies, we are going to... we'll just make a group real quick. I don't like that I can't just paste. Sure, whatever. Just make it a comment. I don't care. Paste. It doesn't let me paste an event into an empty node. Delete this event. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to start at row... we actually want to start at row 11. So we're going to set variable A to 11. No, wait. Sorry. This is going to be... We're going to have a parameter next row column, because I want to use the existing logic to go through and scan from left to right to find the enemies. What I'm trying to think about, I don't know if I could do a nested while loop. I don't know how Game Boy is going to handle that, but let's give it a try, because what else are we going to do right now? So what we're going to do is we're going to start at, I also want to insert a event after, and we're going to set the variable, and we're going to set the variable to equal this, and we're going to make this p next row. And we want our rows to start at 11. And now, as we do this while loop, I should have actually have gotten the, well, whatever, I'll just redo this. So in order for us to go through and loop through and try to find the right direction of the enemy, we're going to need to do the switch again. But we need to do some additional logic here. And this is where I'm going to try to think about how, let me see if there's a insert event before. I just want to see what other kind of loops there are. Loop for, loop while, loop. All right, so what we can do is there are more rows than there are columns, and we're going to set up a nested while loop. And this is going to get a little bit dangerous. So let's just do it this way. Let's disable this and disable this. And we're going to have a while loop on the outer columns, right? So every time we go through a column, we also want to loop through all the rows. So now that means is that we're going to insert an event before, and we're going to do a for now. One thing I'm noticing, in fact, actually, I think this is what I want to do. The other while loops needed to exit, and I didn't know if there was actually like a way of exiting a loop, which is why I used the while. Insert the event before. You know what? I am going to use a while loop, and I'll explain why. So there's only going to be 6 enemies that you can have on the screen at any given time, at least 6. And what I'm going to do is, as we do the while loop, we are going to test for the number of enemies that have been placed. And if those enemies are more, once we hit the limit of how many enemies we're allowed to have, we're going to set the next column outside of the bounds in order to exit this first while loop. So let's do this. First off, we need to increment by 1, and we're going to increment the next column. So this is going to go through all the columns. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to test if variable compare with value. And now we're going to create a counter called P total enemies. And we're just going to hard code this to 6 right now. So if we create 6 enemies, what we're going to do now is we need to set the variable for the outer loop of next column to 23. And that will exit this, because I think this right here is 22. Right, as long as it's less than 22, right? Once it goes to here, 22, it will it'll just jump. It's fine. We can set it to 1,000 if we really needed to. It didn't really matter. I mean, technically we can't, because numbers are only 256 because it's an 8-bit system, but hey, that's math for another day. All right, so we're gonna do this tile map, and we are going to, in this setup enemies, we're going to insert an event above. We're going to call a script. The script is going to be find enemies, and we are going to pass it in the next column. We're going to pass in the next row, and the total enemies, we're just going to pass in a number at 0. And I'm just going to run this, and I just want to see if it like locks up or something, because it's now going to go through and loop through all of these tiles. Yeah, that took a minute, and it's only going to get worse when we do this. Find enemies, because now what we want to do is increment this by 1. We want to add an insert event before, which is going to be another 4. I'm going to set this to a while, but we're just going to do it this way. Next row. Once the next row is less than 21. And then what we're going to do is increment by 1. P next row. Right, column, fine. And then right before this while loop, we're going to insert an event before, and we're going to do next, variable. We're going to set a variable to a value. We're going to set next row to 0. Well, actually, we're going to set next row to, next row always starts at 11. So what this means is that we're going to, on the outer loop, we're going horizontal. On the inner loop, we're going vertical. I'm going to run this right now. It's going to slow down. I think what I'm going to wind up having to do is either I'm going to have to write this in VB, like in their scripting thing, or I'm just going to have to write this into my plugin. Yeah, see, that took a minute. But that's fine. Here's what we're going to do now. What we're going to do is, on every iteration, before we increment by 1, we're going to insert an event before, and we are going to get the meta tile at position. And we're going to use the variable for row, and we're going to use the variable for column, and we're going to set this to a new variable called p tile ID. Now let's come back into here. We're going to pass in this tile ID. And we're going to set this tile ID to, let's just do a temporary 0. In fact, we can probably just do this. We'll do variable. We'll just use temp 0 and temp 1. So now when we're finding our enemies, we are now testing to see what this tile is. And this is where our switch will come in. So let's insert an event before. We're going to insert a switch. We're We're gonna have two options. I am going to disable the else, and our two options are going to be when tile ID equals constant, and now let's create two constants. We already have a tile enemy. We're gonna make this a constant tile, constant enemy tile ID. And that value is going to be, what's the player? Exit top left, platform. The player tile ID is 20, right? So this is 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. We have 21 and 22. So this will be 21. And then we're going to create another one for 22. And this will be left. So now in our find enemies, what we're going to do is every time we find a constant for P enemy right, or we find a constant for P enemy left, we're going to initialize the enemy. But we're going to actually increase this counter by 1 first. So let's increment by 1 the total enemies. And we actually need to do this in both of these. Increase. Actually, you know what? I think, well, we need to do this. Increase enemy counter. I'm actually going to move this out of the while loop. And we're going to go back to this other idea we had before, which is set a variable to true. We're going to pass in one more variable here called P found enemy. And so we're going to increase the P. No, wait. Yeah, we're going to set the P found enemy to true. And we're going to do the same thing. Let's rename this. Found enemy. Let's copy this here. Paste it after. And we'll put it in here. All right, so both of these are going to find the enemy. When we restart the loop, which is up here, where we reset this value, we're going to paste an event after, and we're going to set this to false. P found enemy. All right, I'm going to rerun this. I just want to see if this still runs without, like, before I start moving the enemies around. So if this works, again, it's just running really slow. I'll deal with that later. It should loop through and find enemies, but now it's not doing that. So let's do this for a second. Let's disable this switch. Let's disable this increment. I think part of the problem is that it was, let's increment this row by 1. This should go through and at least give us, it'll at least go through and find all the column, it'll find everything in the columns and the rows. Not good. Oh, is it because I'm passing in found enemy? Here we go. I've like run out of let's do this. Total enemies. We're going to change this to alive enemies. And we're going to pass in temp 0 and temp 1. My thinking is that instead of having the counter for the enemies increase, we're just going to do it on the actual variable itself. But I just want to see right now if this actually runs. Negative Ghost Rider. Huh, what did I break? Find enemies. So, let's just start disabling things and then we'll add them back in later on. Let's disable this. Row equals 11. All right, so we have, when we start up, our start row. Wait, let me rename this because this is not renamed correctly, which is what was throwing me off. Reset next column to 1, which, no, this should be row. Wait, I'm so confused. Okay, that should set it to here, which is 1. Then this next row should be 11. So P, let's rename this to reset next row. All right, now these two variables will, when we run this, we'll just reset these values. And now what we're going to do is we're going to loop through this. So while P is less than 22, we're going to get the tile found enemy. We're going to increment this by 1. So let's just disable this and disable this. And then if the enemies equals, if total enemies equals 6, we are going to tell this column to exit. So I'm going to add a breakpoint here because this should never get triggered because I don't even have 6 enemies in the scene yet. You can already tell I'm just hungry. All right, so that worked now. Fine, great. Now let's go and enable this while loop. And now this is the next row. So right here, we were resetting the row. We want to do this again every time we go through all the columns. Or actually every time we go through all the... Yeah, every time we move the next column, we want to reset all the rows back to 11. Rename. Reset. Next row. All right. And we're not going to check for the enemies yet. All we're going to do is we're going to loop through this. And as long as P next row is less than 21, in columns row, this should, yeah, less than 21, fine. All right. Then we're going to do some stuff. And then at the end of this, or in this while loop, we are going to increment next row by 1. Let's see if this works. I think my brain's shutting down and it just wants lunch right now. So, yep, there we go. Okay, it just took a really long time to run. So now we want to enable this event, and at each row and at each column, we are going to set the P tile ID. And let's come in here. And now when we call this here, we're going to pass in temp 0. We can actually reuse this get brush ID. So we'll just reuse that for right now. And I think what's probably happening is I just wasn't letting it, I wasn't waiting long enough. Let's just give it a minute and see if it works. Hey, okay, it did work. Whoa, that was slow. And everything broke because of it. All right, I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna need to do some C in order to get this to work because it's just way too slow. And then that I think is like the missing piece right now. I don't know how to pass things around in C. So I think what I'm gonna do, I think what I have to do is I have to create a loop in C. I have to give it 5 or 6 variables. And those 6 variables will be the counters for where I need to place these enemies. But all right, I'll come back to that later. So anyways, thanks for watching. I am not going to be able to stream tomorrow, but I am going to try to do a stream on Saturday. And I will hopefully see you there. Hopefully I'll have some more progress. I'm going to work on this over the afternoon when I'm not on camera. And then once I get that working, I'm hoping on Saturday we can just focus on the actual level editor implementation. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you on Saturday.